Thank you for listening. This is the Solo Monk Show, episode 22. I had a dream that I lived in some kind of parallel world, or maybe it was this world in the future. Maybe it was this world that exists right now in some place, since all things are kind of happening at the same time. But in this world, cops would raid your house every 30 minutes, and they had augmented bodies, so they could move 10 times faster than regular people. I'm guessing in this world that at some point we started augmenting cops because as crime rates go down, cops in the prison industrial complex have to figure out ways to kind of put people back in prison. Crime keeps going down, crime keeps going down. We need new laws, we need more cops, we need tanks, we need machine guns, machetes, bombs. Eventually they'll just give nukes to local cops and they'll just nuke houses that they think sell drugs. But anyway, in this dream, cops would raid houses every 30 minutes. They would just patrol every block, every street, in every city, and they just go through your house. And they were so fast that they would just kind of appear in your room. And they would tell you whatever violation you had, and then you would disappear. And in this dream, I lived in a house with a few roommates, and we had just been raided 30 minutes earlier. And they took my roommates. They all disappeared. And in this world, when you're arrested or when they take you, because they stopped explaining stuff to people at some point in this world, in the future, in the parallel universe. Cops didn't have to explain themselves about anything that they did. They just took people and they disappeared, and there was nowhere to call and there was nothing to do about it, and you just had to deal with it. And people did deal with it. They normalized it. And in this dream, I was stressed out because my roommates had just disappeared. So I pulled out a stash of marijuana and I started rolling up a joint in this dream. And then all of a sudden, a cop was in front of me, and I looked up, and the cop grabbed me, and I woke up, and I was terrified. The same terror that I was experiencing in that dream translated to the real world, and I was terrified for maybe 2 minutes after I woke up. Where I just woke up, I sat in bed, I looked around, not certain that I was there or I was here or which one it was. I'm extremely afraid of cops or any kind of social identity where people just have unquestionable authority. And my personal experiences with cops and my friends and family members, cops do whatever they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. They're bullies usually. There's a reason that people are like, you know what, that cop was actually a pretty cool person. It's because most of them are, not cool people. They just drive around trying to get money out of people. They're just extracting out of their community. They have to fabricate some kind of weird necessity. I mean, it's like a fabricated, necessity for violence, removal of choice by force. And the way they do that is to keep people afraid. So you have like this weird binary in our culture where some people are so afraid all the time that they want the cops to go around cracking skulls and shooting people and kicking in doors when nothing's going on and arresting people for, small amounts of weed. Ex-Speaker of the House John Boehner has made hundreds of millions of dollars off selling weed now, even though he spent his whole career fighting any kind of legalization of marijuana or decriminalization. We live in this weird world where just like everything is lies, everything's illusions, everything's contradictions, and it's supposed to drive you mad. And the people who are divergent, people who, think differently, act differently, can't, play along, they end up in the system. They end up, being the object of violence. And I've always felt like I've kind of teetered that line between obedience and divergent action and thoughts, and trying to build my own practice to exist in parallel to capitalism and parallel to like materialism, parallel to consumption, endless consumption to kind of distract us from the reality of everything. But it does seem like a lot of it's based on fear and terror. That's why we have all these magic words that you can beat people over the head with and they'll just give up all the rights. People really don't think that they are born with any kind of rights and that they're born with any kind of like inherent value, and that they have to seek value in the market, seek value from their employer, seek value from people they're attracted to. You got to bend and become, whatever commodity other people want you to be. You kind of have to meet whatever the social profile is that's being projected onto you. And if you don't want to get hurt when you come in contact with one of these authority figures, you have to be completely just pleasant, obedient, scared, tell them you're scared. Maybe they'll have pity on you. Maybe they won't, There's plenty of videos of cops just killing people while people are crying out for their mothers. The cops are just like loving it, because that's what they do this shit for. They want to go around, and because they got a uniform, they want to, knock on doors and kick tires and fuck up your life over some dumb small stuff, because they think you deserve it, and society agrees. And what's hilarious about it is that they say that there's some kind of authority that they have to answer to, and that, well, this is just the laws. This is just the way it is. This is there's always something above. There's always someone else cracking the whip, and I don't know. It's just not true. Every person chooses to like act out their roles. And with the exception of people being stuck in a bad spot because of material conditions, I mean, like, people seek out employment at the police force. And a lot of times in cities where they know it's all bad and they just want to get involved, They like the idea of cracking heads. They like the idea of like using guns. They trust themselves with a gun, to make the decision on who gets to live and who gets to die. And it's like not a normal thing. Some people would be like, well, violence has been around for a long time, da-da-da-da. Sure. But human behavior has been around for a long time. What's fucked up is that we came up with an etiquette and a rule of law that, basically says your freedoms don't matter. Your obedience matters, And you'll be rewarded for your obedience, or maybe you won't. It don't matter, but you definitely need to be obedient because you don't really have a choice about that. And I know that dreams are kind of like fight or flight simulators for our brain, that it's a way for our brain to kind of go through programs and go through experiences and kind of like catalog, and it's like sharpen your tools while you're resting. The body rests and the mind keeps working. And then we kind of work through these visual abstractions and these stories and these experiences. Try to make sure that we, it's like a biological imperative that we don't get caught up in some dumb shit. And over the years, I've had all kinds of goofy dreams. A lot of times about cops. I had a reoccurring dream for a few years that I was stuck in a room with all my ex-girlfriends, and they all just laughed at me. And there was no rooms to the door. There was no windows. There's nothing. There's just like I don't know, like 25 ex-girlfriends just kind of like cackling at me. And they wouldn't speak to me, and they would just laugh every time I tried to speak to them. And there was like nowhere to go in the room. There was no corner to stand in. It was just like steeped in humiliation. And then you wake up and you just feel like shit. You think about all the things that you fucked up in those relationships. And you think about the dumb shit that you said. How many times you were out of pocket because you felt like there was some kind of threat, and there wasn't a threat. And there's, in a relationship, for the most part, with the exception of a few girls that I've dated, a few women that I've dated, most of them are not going to hurt you or physically fight you or punch you or stab you or something. It's usually two people just kind of barking at each other because, they figured out that they don't like each other anymore. They don't know how to go about making the exit. So they come up with a bunch of weird, small things that turn into huge things. And then before you know it, you're just arguing and yelling all the time. But it's funny that I have that dream because it's like, what is my brain trying to simulate there? Or what is the fight or flight thing there? That when people are laughing at me, when people are mocking me, and it's not like it happens often, I'm like 6'5". I'm, fairly intelligent. I'm not like super smart, but I'm okay. I'm not under threat. The most I have to worry about is musicians gossiping about me, and people that I used to know and make art for are mad at me because I don't make their music for them anymore. That's about all I really ever have to worry about now. Well, that and poverty. Poverty is a big deal. The cops are more of a worry than, general humiliation. And sometimes I'd like to think that, well, I'm beyond getting humiliated because I'm 35 years old. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, who's going to humiliate me? I live a, kind of isolated life. I help where I can, I communicate with people when I can, but when you're poor or whatever, you don't have money to go anywhere. You don't have money to do anything. You can't go out to eat. You can't, I don't drink anymore, so I don't go to bars. So humiliation really isn't in the cards anymore. but I still have these weird reoccurring dreams. It's like, what is my brain trying to tell me? What is my brain trying to warn me about? And I try to do, daily inventories of my feelings and where they're coming from, just to make sure that nothing gets out of hand and that I don't act goofy towards the people that I care about anymore. Because it's happened a few times where like my mental health is just like straight dog shit, and I can't really tell who's a threat or who's using me or who loves me or who cares about me. Because in my brain, no one does. But I know that's not true. It's like it's a weird synapses or something, I think it comes from when I was homeless, like being completely alone in the world, nobody caring if you're starving to death or if you're sleeping in the rain or if you haven't eaten in 5 days or if you haven't slept in a couple of days. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants to talk to you. No one wants to sit next to you. No one wants to hear your voice, People actively are aggressive towards you. But all that negative self-talk, which is, it's not like it's not a part of reality. People genuinely don't care about other people, People want to eat their food and they want to eat their slop and they want to buy their things and they want to show up to the store and everything be there, and they don't give a shit who gets destabilized or what market gets destabilized. They just want their shit, because we identify ourselves with the commodities that we consume. So people really are kind of cruel, but it's not a fight or flight situation. So I don't know why my brain goes over and over and over the, those types of things. It's usually when my mental health is really bad. And I try to deconstruct it and I try to keep an inventory of it, but I can't really ever grasp it, I can only know when I fucked up after something happened, after I say something, because I'm not really good at lying. I can't do it. I try to be honest in the situation, and sometimes I just say stupid shit, I say aggressive stuff, and it doesn't seem aggressive to me, but I grew up really rough and really ridiculous, and just like violence was very normalized. So talking sternly with someone doesn't seem that aggressive to me. Like speaking directly in a quiet tone, not threatening anybody, just being like, well, here's my boundaries and here's this line, and people just like think I'm being hostile towards them. And it's been that way in relationships, it's been that way in work environments. But people really are trying to hoodoo you sometimes. And if you don't set boundaries, they'll just do whatever they want to do. And then you have to deal with it afterwards. So you have to communicate clearly. Or that's what I learned, in my mid-20s. Every 5 years, I kind of hit some new stride where I have to get my shit together on a different level and figure out things. And because the goals change, the field always changes. The games change. Humans, we make up all these games of etiquette and social relations to build meaning in our lives. And it changes a lot. I think we tend to focus on that, which is why we don't have much object permanence about history or political situations. We prefer to play our games, We prefer to consume. We prefer to not think. It may be me being so diligent about constantly deconstructing and keeping an inventory of everything just to make sure that I'm not going crazy. Treating people badly or being neglectful or mean or anything like that. Maybe that due diligence to do that is alienating to people around me who feel no compulsion to do it whatsoever. When I was a bartender, it's a strange situation, because sometimes people are alcoholics and they show up every day to your bar and they tip you well, and you start to care about these people and you're like, damn, I wish I could help, but I can't help. All I can do is make this drink. And maybe that's all that can be done really with just the human condition in general, is just have a drink, because those people are also stuck in their own lives, just like I'm stuck in my own role as the bartender, as the dreamer, as the ex-homeless dude, as the aging musician, the aging artist who is trying to find meaning in all the symbols that he's dedicated his life to. So my brain kind of opens up and it really, I try to consider everything. What if consumption is the only kind of modality of freedom that you can have, as we're navigating this world in a dying meat suit while everyone around us lies to themselves and to each other so they can feel better about everything. Maybe consumption is the only thing to do. I don't know. Maybe all things are true. I've never been a big believer in dreams meaning something higher or being able to tell you the future or anything like that. But I do think it is likely, since everything that could happen has already happened, that your brain can come up with patterns that it recognizes and then present them to you, and then the patterns recreate themselves in reality outside the dream state, or more like the brain's sleep mode. I worry sometimes that maybe keeping my mind this open all the time is actually not great. And that being present and thinking about nothing is maybe the most enlightened thing that I could possibly do with my time. But thinking about nothing is really hard. And dreaming about nothing is really hard. I don't want to run away from who I am or what I've become or ignore it. I don't want to be blindsided by my own behavioral patterns, because I have been before. And not only did it kind of destroy my personal world in that time, but it also, kind of hurt other people, their feelings. I never physically hurt anybody, but sometimes being unaware or avoiding what you need to take care of affects other people. And that's another thing I'm terrified of, becoming some kind of authority figure in like a personal relationship, trying to build my own illusions of control over the people around me. And what if I'm so sneaky that I can trick myself into thinking that I'm actually a good person and I'm not a good person? Does any of that make sense? I'm not sure. I know cops terrify me, and I know becoming a different type of cop, which seems to be the way that folks are going now, is that instead of criticizing authority, people want to become the authority. So they police culture, they police comedy, they police identities, they police the words you use. Everything is under the light, and everything. Since they can't, really do anything about real authority, they attack people within arm's length. This world is mostly illusions, and the dreams is us just breaking down the illusions patterns. So when folks think that there's meaning in their dreams, and they don't think there's meaning in their life, as in the reason we do all the things that we do, the reason we consume the way we do, the reason that we're obedient to authority, the reason we're obedient to our vertical relationships to capital, it just feels like magical thinking a lot of times. I'm not sure. Thank you for listening.